Welcome to episode 478 of Salcedo Paranormal. I believe it's 478. I'll double check on that later. And tonight I'm reviewing more of the complete books of Charles Fort. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page. And that is salcidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions, or stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Also, this is episode 477, I believe, as far as I can tell. So, anyway, thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord, or if you listen on the podcast or YouTube feeds, or on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of the show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. As always, I wanted to thank Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, as well as Liam Martin, host of the Exiled Minds podcast, for producing the show and putting it up on the station. If you'd like to support the show, there are some different ways to do that. You can always rate and review the show on your podcast platform of choice, and also share the show with others. Also, I've written some paranormal fiction and nonfiction books you can check out over on Amazon. We have a Patreon page for the show where you can find 1 episode per month, just over there, exclusively over on Patreon. And it's always going to be, at least as of right now, true paranormal stories on the web. I'm planning on recording the episode for this month tomorrow, so hopefully that'll be up by tomorrow night. Also, you can, if you'd like to make just a one-time donation to the show, you can do that through PayPal or Venmo. Help is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, from equipment to research materials to travel. And say that because I'm going to the Mid-Michigan Paracon this year, November 4th and 5th. That's a Saturday and Sunday, at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. That's in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. And there I'll be making recordings of myself and anyone else who wants to join me, talking about the paranormal, excuse me, whether it's thoughts and theories or personal experiences. Happy to talk with anyone there that wants to talk, and anyone that wants to be on the show through a recording there. So, and then of course I'll share all those recordings, at least those that are decent enough to use, once I get back home, and do a show on that. So 1 or 2 shows, depending on how much I have. So looking forward to that. It's not all that far away now, only about less than 2 months, basically. So it's been coming for a while. I'm really glad that it's finally getting closer. I'm finally getting closer to it. So, yeah, this is I'm continuing the review of the complete books of Charles Fort. Now, last time, for those of you that were here, or that you listened to the last one of these shows, you may remember that it sort of ended with a lot of sort of scientific discussion of scientific methods and theories and just systems and all those different things. And so I've gone ahead and looked through more of the material there in the book, and we're skipping ahead a little ways to get back to parts where it talks about anomalies and things that can't easily be explained. So just because all of that sort of talk of all that is just way above my understanding, at least as of right now anyway. So, excuse me. So we're skipping through all that, and starting with part 2 of New Lands, which is the second book in this collection. And so let me get to the Word document here with all the summaries. Again, I've used AI to summarize this book, and we'll be going from that, reading from that, and just talking about these things and thoughts and all these things that as I read them. So that's the plan for this, and then the rest of these shows basically on covering this series of books. So this is again going to part 2 of the book New Lands, and it starts with chapter 13. So this chapter describes various unusual sky phenomena and mysterious events that happened between 1801 and 1825, including strange lights seen on the moon. Now think about that for a second. I know I've heard of different cases of people in the past making sort of airships here on Earth. This is the moon we're talking about. So that really is amazing. That does sound like something likely UFO related that is also likely not human related. If I just had to guess there. Unusual objects crossing the sun, flashes of light. I was reading ahead. Flashes of light, explosive sounds, falling stones, mysterious seeds. That's odd, and more. Many of these events are said to have occurred in or near specific locations such as East Haddam, Connecticut, Melida in Italy. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Not even trying to say this place in Siberia, and another location in Scotland. And Fort suggests these events may be connected or related in some way, challenging astronomical geodetic principles of the time. So Fort cites numerous scientific reports and publications as sources for many of these events. And there's an underlying implication that these events may originate from unknown worlds or extraterrestrial causes, though Fort does not state this directly, apparently. So yeah, that's basically for that one, just summarizing more events that happened in this time period. And these are, of course, just some of the events that happened throughout, again, just the first book in this series, the Book of the Damned. Things have been going on like this apparently for years, many years. Moving on to the next chapter here, chapter 14. This one discusses various anomalous astronomical observations that challenge conventional scientific views, such as unusually large craters on the moon, lights signaling on the moon and Mars, unknown objects near Venus, and unidentified luminous objects moving through Earth's skies. So again, think about just what the possibilities here of objects that are giving off light that are moving around the moon and then also Mars. So, and this is way before any kind of human space programs are going on that we know of anyway. I'm pretty darn sure about that one. As far as I've ever heard, I've never even heard of anything secret space program related going that far back. So, not that I know anything for sure. But Charles Fort is skeptical of conventional explanations for these things. He suggests some of them indicate the moon is much closer than believed. And again, I don't know about that. And this is from a ways back. And that objects travel between Mars or Venus and Earth, and that unknown objects enter Earth's local skies. Fort mentions particular observations as evidence, such as a red wheel-spoked object seen rising in Sussex in 1855, and a red object moving through the sky in Marseilles, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, in 1871. So Again, just all these odd sightings of things that can't easily be explained. Some of the reports of conventional explanations for these things are illusions, reflected light, auroras, and those kinds of things. Now, the auroras, I mean, maybe I could see that just because they do have colors to them, but I don't know for sure either. So, let me see here. Moving on to the next section here. I mean, actually, no, this is the same one. Fort argues for being open to all these things, and Fort highlights basically these objects and these the scientific community's reactions to them, basically. So, moving on to the next chapter here. It's chapter 15. And let me check on things here. Yeah, everything looks okay. All right, good. So, moving on to chapter 15. Apparently, there were several mysterious incidents of small black stones falling from the sky in a localized area of England in the mid 19th century. Here are the key points regarding that. In June of 1858, many small black stones fell during a storm in Birmingham. Initially thought to be meteorites, but later identified as pieces of local pavement stone. That's odd. I don't know how that could happen, but I guess anything's possible there. But then in June of 1860, similar small black stones fell during a storm in nearby Wolverhampton. Not sure about that one. I guess that the explanation of the paving stones is the one that was maybe given by most people. Maybe they weren't, but then of course that makes you wonder, where are they from? In May of 1868, more of these stones fell in Birmingham, again seeming to match the local pavement stone. There were reports of people being struck and injured by the falling stones before and after this date, suggesting a more extended event, basically. If they're falling with that kind of force, that's scary. In May of 1869, more small black stones fell in Wolverhampton after a storm, matching the description of the previous falls. So these repeated falls of stones in this area with no while the reports remains unexplained. Charles Fort seemed to find it notably mysterious that the falls happened multiple times in the same areas, suggesting perhaps a local sky phenomenon rather than ordinary meteoritic explanation. The matching of the stones to local pavement stone has also not been conclusively resolved. So in other words, and I was wondering about this, do they have like an area where they know that the pavement was damaged, and then that's where the stones came from? But then, of course, how was it? That's an odd situation right there. So, moving on to the next chapter. But yeah, that is. I wonder about that, if they really were from the pavement or if they were from somewhere else. Again, it seems like if they're falling fast enough to cause injuries, that's I don't know. But this next chapter, chapter 16, talks about let's see here. Okay, Fort cites many examples of unknown objects seen crossing the sun or solar disk, challenging the claim by astronomers that such unknown worlds could not exist. So I'm wondering if he's saying that these are massive objects that have crossed there. I don't know. The observations are by respected astronomers, and they give names here that I do not recognize, but I'm guessing they're from that time. Carrington. I wonder if that's. I don't know about that one for sure. If there's a connection there to that event. The unknown objects were seen over many decades, from the 1820s through the 1860s, and in many locations around the world. They appeared as dark spots or points or luminous bodies, and some were said to be planet-sized. How is that determined? If that's the case, that is, you would think that would be, excuse me, that would be having major effects on Earth itself, if that was the case. I'm wondering if maybe that was just the appearance, but it wasn't really. That wasn't the case, at least not in the physical sense. Excuse me. I don't know, but that's an amazing idea there. And again, with all these things here, I like to keep in mind that if we know there are paranormal events where these objects seem to be there but not there, in other words, they appear but they also don't appear to be physical, and if they're out there in space, then how would we even know if it's physical or not unless we're sort of feeling effects? The planet itself is feeling, I don't know, gravitational effects? Hard to say there. I'm not, this is way out of anything I can really easily talk about. But yeah, that's massive objects. Getting back to this document here, I lost my spot. Okay, Fort suggests that these observations indicate the existence of many unknown worlds or lands beyond those currently known, analogous to how new lands on Earth were discovered by Europeans in centuries past. So again, in the physical sense, I don't know about that, but also if there's different ways for things to appear but not be physically here, I'm thinking more of like apparitions or interdimensional entities or things like that. Wouldn't it be amazing if some places can also exist in that way and sort of just appear and then disappear? That might be the explanation there. I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard of that, quite that big of an event before. But Fort notes that if night watchmen were given telescopes, more might be discovered about these unknown celestial objects, only seen crossing the sun during daytime. Of course, this is back in a little ways back. The passage ends with separate nighttime observations in 1866 of a strange luminous object moving through the sky over Colombia. And they don't say where exactly that is, because I wonder if they mean the country. But in summary, Fort mentions numerous historical accounts to argue for the existence of undiscovered celestial lands and objects. And again, this is, I'm guessing here, where the title for this one book, New Lands, basically comes from. So I think we can get through a couple more sections here. This is chapter 17. And if you all, whenever you have a chance, if you can comment or let me know in Discord if you enjoy this series or not. I mean, I'm enjoying it because there's so many reports of just odd things. But I'd like to know what you all think of this as well. So, and I can base future reviews of nonfiction books on what you all think of this. So, just a thought there. Chapter 17, this describes various accounts of unusual objects and substances seen falling from the sky, which Charles Fort interprets as evidence of strange occurrences and unseen worlds above us. Many of these accounts describe seeing seeds and other objects, luminous stones, and fibrous black masses falling from the sky. The accounts are from the 1800s and early 1900s, reported by astronomers, professors, and other observers in places like Italy, South Carolina. So Italy, the country of Italy, and then South Carolina, Iowa, and Kentucky here in the U.S. For it suggests that these falling objects could be evidence of floating islands or other living things occupying the sky, which he sees as more plausible than the dismissive explanations that they're just seeds or ordinary meteors. Fort argues that seeing such detailed objects in motion across the sky, viewed from widely separated locations, suggests they must be near the near the moon if seen in without parallax rather than very distant. The accounts are intended to support Fort's unconventional ideas about strange phenomena existing in the skies and being dismissed or ignored by mainstream science. So that's basically the end of that one. I think we have time for at least one more chapter here. This is chapter 18. Let me see here. In this section, Fort says there have been many reports over the years of phantom soldiers or armies seen in the sky in places like Scotland, Liverpool, France, India, and Germany. That's amazing. These sightings are often involved large groups of people. So I wonder, that's blowing my mind right now, because you can't even really label that as like a residual hunting, because what are they doing up in the sky? That's just yeah. I mean, unless they are spirits that can just be wherever they want to somehow, or there's some other reason for this. I mean, I think I've talked about this with friends before, but I don't know if I've talked about it on the show. This idea of sort of how residual images work. And I mean, I've talked about how sometimes apparitions will show up in buildings or near buildings, and they'll appear to be walking on thin air, or they'll be moving through a house, but you won't see their feet or their feet and legs. And it can be possibly because if it's some kind of an energy field that's just playing over and over again, then, and there was another time where that building wasn't there the way it is currently for the experiencer, for the witness, then you wouldn't see the person's legs or feet. But this is a bit more extreme, so I don't know how to explain that. But that's some amazing sightings. I wonder, again, I don't know about that one, unless again there's some kind of energy field going on there that's displaying images of the past that are somehow being projected into the sky. That really is amazing. Let's see here. Let's see how much more I have to go here. Okay, so of course, mainstream science tries to write them all off as mirages. Fort suggests these could be visions of inhabitants and activities in extrageographic conditions, such as unknown lands and realms in outer space that were temporarily visible. That's an interesting idea. And he saw these glimpses of lands and life forms that are normally invisible to us on Earth. So that's basically all that there's in that section, just more summaries of that. But maybe I'll come back and I'll review that section next time on one of these shows. So that's all the time we have for today. Thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you all in the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care.